Super Prime Time.
Joining us on the debate, we have Majid Hydari, political analyst, Ahmad Ayaz, also political analyst, lawyer Zubair Memon. We have Rahul Ishwar, activist. My first question is to you, Shehzad Poonawala, national spokesperson of the BJP, because the straight allegation is that this is your toolkit. It worked in Uttar Pradesh and now you're trying to replicate it in Bihar, and this convenient 8.8-page document or a dossier has suddenly emerged in order to demonize Muslims and PFI. Shehzad Poonawala.
First of all, the PFI does not represent all Muslims, and I'm sure the PFI should not be called Popular Front of India, but it should be called People for Incitement. Recently, you remember, Padmaja, the Kerala High Court had indicted them saying that PFI and SDP are extremist organizations and they ought to be banned. The Kerala government did not ban them. That's another issue. Secondly, you would remember that in the TJ Joseph case, 13 of their Karyakartas were convicted. Is the court also fabricating it? You would remember that the Kerala police in the last few years has caught many of these people joining ISIS, making bombs or indulging in other anti-national activities. In fact, here's an article from Telangana. Indian Express has published 3 PFI activists were arrested just 1 week ago and charged with UAP in Telangana. Is that a pro-BJP or a pro-Hindutva government or an anti-Muslim government? So, you know, for the PFI to play this victimhood card. But it's not the PFI's real fault. Padmaja, it is the INC. What is the INC? Not Indian National Congress. Islamo-Nazi caucus. This Islamo-Nazi caucus, the moment action is taken on PFI, you know the NIA has designated them as a terror group. You know that UP has demanded a ban on them. You know that Karnataka government is moving towards a ban on them. You know that other state governments are also doing that. The moment action is taken on them, ED or otherwise, there is a Islamo-Nazi caucus that stands up for them. For instance, you would remember the Kerala government, which once said on affidavit that this is nothing but an avatar of Simi, today patronizes these groups. Does not ban them despite the court order.
No, the
today
reason
you
why
have
I said
organizations
demonizing
like
Muslims,
Congress
here's
Party,
why. Because this is not just about the PFI. Just a second. The follow-up question is why I said demonizes Muslims is because this whole idea of Islamic State, that India will be turned into Islamic State by people being reminded of their Muslim identity, that they are working for Deen, seems to be talking about the community as a whole.
You see, Padmaja, we are a country which has secular values, and if we are supposed to be living by the constitution, why should anybody advocate these principles that are not in conformity with the constitution? This entire idea that there should be an Islamic state is antithetical to the constitution. So first of all, this idea, or anybody who supports this, and this is how it begins, this idea of Tushtikaran ki Rajniti mein allowed, I think this is not any idea of empowerment of Muslims. This is actually trying to incite Muslims. And look, the problem is the people like, there's one MLA of CPI-ML whose bite you just showed. You know, when action is taken, these people come out and start defending groups like PFI, and they say that they are being victimized.
So let me bring in Ahmad Ayaz.
Convicted activists of the PFI for hand chopping and for other anti-national activities.
Ahmad Ayaz, just a second. Here comes India 2047, says this dossier. 2047 is not a watershed in history, but it signifies the end of a century of independent India and beginning of a new one pregnant with changes. We dream of a 2047 where the political power returns to Muslim community. We have given ourselves a target of 2047 to bring about an Islamic government in this country. For victory, we don't need a majority. If 10% of Muslim population rally behind it, PFI would subjugate the coward majority community, bring them to their knees. What kind of a political mobilization is this? This is sheer weaponization of religion.
The first thing should come to the mind of everyone as to where from this idea has come and who is floating and spreading all this. What is the ethnicity about what is being said? You see, we know living in Kashmir, when militancy started in Kashmir, it was just limited to one state itself. And everybody, almost every Kashmiri from one corner to another knew what's happening in the Kashmir, because it was known something is happening. Now that if there is such a big plan that 2047 is supposed to be converted as an Islamic state, and possibly every Anyone in the country would have known it. It is nothing but to demonize Muslims and defame Muslims, and maybe some politics also involved, some people just to create a situation like this, trying to do something, because nowadays politics and vote bank politics is based on Islam, Hindu-Muslim divide and the hate. And I think this
so, sir,
is
if you're
part
saying
of
it's to
that,
demonize Muslims, who are Muhammad Jalaluddin and Athar Parvez? Are you saying Muhammad Jalaluddin and Athar Parvez are also innocent, like Javed Pump is innocent, like Siddiq Kappan is innocent? They're all innocent people who are just being picked up by the police.
If anybody is to create a trouble, he can hire anybody to do anything. You see, there are Muslims who are said to be, you have not seen what has happened in recently in Dargah Sharif.
Okay.
And somebody, maybe he is a Muslim, but he was said to be he was a history cheater or a drunken, or likewise, can't a person be hired in the name of Islam? In the name
so
of
I don't know how he has been hired, sir, because if he is indeed a drunkard and a history cheater, that the Dargah has to answer how he was employed there. You still haven't answered, but it seems to be the charge, Shehzad Poonawala, that you are printing these dossiers and then you are hiring Muhammad Jalaluddin and Athar Parvez in order to carry out propaganda against Ahmad Ayaz and ilk. Shehzad Poonawala.
Padmaja, if Mr. Ayaz would just indulge me for 30 seconds. Mr. Ayaz, please answer this, and today I want to ask you a question, not as a BJP spokesperson. Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all of these countries are in a mess. Are the Hindus to blame there also? Is there a BJP, RSS to blame there? या वहाँ पर भी कोई defame करने जा रहा है Muslims को? Please, sir, let's have an honest introspection. Today, India is what it is because we chose to make this country a secular country, and the Hindus of this country did not go down the path of Pakistan, make it a theological country. This is thanks to people like Padmaja and thanks to the Hindu community that this country is secular. Let us acknowledge this fact. And sir, please tell me, very honestly, when Yaqub Memon was convicted, you came out. अरे मुसलमान को demonize किया जा रहा है. When Afzal was convicted, you said, you came out. मुसलमानों को demonize किया जा रहा है, victimize किया जा रहा है. How come your role models are only Yaqub and Afzal? Why not APJ Abdul Kalam ever? Why not Hamid? Why not why not Aurangzeb who fought the terrorists? Why not other people who are fighting terrorists every day? This is the problem, sir. That you make heroes out of these elements. And then you say, हमारा victimization हो रहा है. Introspect on this not as a political analyst, but introspect on this as an Indian tonight.
Zubair Memon, the PFI is no hero. And if you smirk at these kind of reports today, there were countries like Iran, there were countries like Afghanistan, which were fairly liberal, even Turkey. 50 years ago, 80 years ago, they would have been smirking at such a report. And look where Afghanistan is today, Zubair Memon.
Actually, we should not be interested.
Where is Afghanistan today, or where is Sri Lanka today? I am far more interested. Where is my India today?
So the reason why I brought it up is because the goal is the same: to get Islamic rule into the country. Afghanistan today runs by the Sharia, and the stated goal of this document is exactly that: to have Islamic rule by subjugating the majority in India. The road map is the same. Mr. Memon.
Nowadays, some Hindutvawadis are comparing or saying Syria and Afghanistan. Some so-called liberals are comparing Modi ji and BJP government with Sri Lanka. I am not interested in any of that comparisons. The main objective point of the debate is about the document produced by the Bihar Police. And in the starting of the program, the PFI official, somebody, I don't know his name or not, you only produced it, that they have clearly stated that they have nothing to do with these persons.
Obviously,
now
sir, if somebody has been arrested, what do you expect the PFI to say? Yes. PFI obviously doesn't even own up to TJ Joseph's hand being hacked, despite the fact that people were convicted. What do you expect?
Let me speak for
Afzal Guru said till the time he was hanged that I am innocent.
Ma'am, you can counter me, but let me at least speak for 60 seconds uninterrupted. Then you can counter on each and every point.
Yes.
Now, as we know that PFI has clearly said it has no links with the persons. Now it's up to the Bihar Police and the local law and administration to investigate the issue and let the world know. Instead of doing media trials and questioning some fake reports, we should wait for the local law and administration to do their investigations complete and let the world know
which is
what
perfectly
behind
fine.
it and
The
who is
question
behind it.
though, sir, is when there is a haste to issue a clean chit. Like the CPI MLA of Phulwari Sharif, who we spoke to, he has said कि अरे इनके घर में तो शीशे लगे हुए हैं, ये आर्म्स ट्रेनिंग कैसे देते थे? तब सब लोग अगर आर्म्स ट्रेनिंग के लिए आते तो यहाँ भीड़ लग जाती. He is innocent and he is being victimized. Despite the fact that there is a clear roadmap, it is only the level of detail in this document which is very striking. What do you make of this? Where they say that we have a four stages have been identified to the entire progression towards Islamic rule. First, you establish an Islamic identity beyond the concept of being Indian. Second, spread the narrative. Say that you utilize concepts such as national flag, constitution and Ambedkar to shield the intention of establishing an Islamic rule. Reach out to SC, ST, OBCs. Third, form close alliances with SC, ST, OBCs. Win elections in as many seats as possible, and in the final stage become the undisputed leader and representative of the entire Muslim community. Can this be brushed aside, Rahul Ishwar, as mere figment of imagination and propaganda?
No.
Let Rahul Ishwar respond, then I'll come to you. Mr. Memon. Yes.
And leftist chief minister. No, I'm a right-leaning activist. Forget me.
Let me quote CPM very senior leader, perhaps the most senior leader, V.S. Achuthanandan, who was the chief minister of Kerala, who was receiving intelligence briefing every day. He told openly to the media that Popular Front of India wants to convert Kerala into an Islamic state in 20 to 25 years. Similar devious plans are there is a revelation that is told by a Kerala chief minister who is heading CPM. Please remember, forget Modi ji, forget left, forget Congress. This is told by a CPM leader. Second point, I'm happy and I would like to tell Popular Front that you won't be able to win 10% of our Muslim community ever because they are so well integrated. But they will try. This is the brand of Islamism. They would like to inject and they would like to create a Hindu-Muslim divide. Then they would like to make the Brahmin and Dalit fight, the so-called forward caste and so-called backward caste fight, and trying to take them. See, this is a well-set agenda they have. We should counter. Beyond Hindu, Muslim or Christian, this is anti-Indian. This is anti-human. This is a well-set political agenda of Islamism to capture power. This has nothing to do with the holy
Mr.
Islamic
Memon
faith.
is very
And please
amused
remember,
by
they
your
are
information,
purposefully
Rahul Ishwar.
demonizing Muslims and provoking Muslims because they want Muslims to be provoked against the Hindu community. We do have problems. There are some problems in India, but these people are misusing these problems.
And don't you
so
find
that
it
they can
problematic
create a
also,
sense
Mr.
of
Memon, that
criticism
this
and
document speaks of how Muslims should be made to understand that they work for Deen and their identity is above that of an Indian. More than identity of an Indian, you have an Islamic identity. Mr. Memon.
Yes, the document which you read out is completely heinous and is completely absurd. As a Islamic person or a Muslim person, I would clearly like to state it that Islam doesn't teach this. Second thing, Islam is the one religion and the only religion who has given religious identity to all the persons.
Sir,
Instead,
if I can
the
just
freedom of
interject
speech,
for
the
10
freedom
seconds,
of, one minute,
this
let
is
me
exactly
complete
what
it,
we
then
were
you can
told
interject.
when there were cries of Sar Tan se juda, and within weeks there was actual murder of 2 people. So it doesn't really matter what you preach in an ideal world, but radicals are not going by what you are saying. People who are radicalized are going by what is being told to them.
Ma'am, when you mention Udaipur, complete the statement that the culprits were from the BJP.
Anyway,
and I
please
don't
move
want to
on.
get
We've
into
done that debate ad nauseum. We can keep going on and on about this. Please come to the point.
We have to move. Yes. I would like to clearly say, Islam is the religion which has given freedom of religion and freedom of speech to the world which we are practicing today. These types of documents are never produced by any Muslim or Islamic one. At least I am thinking that this document seems to me like a WhatsApp forward from a Hindutva-wadi to propagate, see what Muslims are doing and how they are planning against us.
Okay, Rahul, just a quick response and I want to bring in Majid Haider. This is a WhatsApp document. 2 people who've been arrested with flags, forms, documents in their house. They are also apparently planted by the BJP. The conspiracy that is being spoken of, I suppose even that is a plant of the BJP, and people who've actually been killed and attacked by the PFI are also plants of the BJP.
So, Zubairji, just one submission to you. You know, I accept and respect that you are distancing from it, and no Muslim should fall for it. At the same point of time, let us not forget that there has been many members from Kerala, India and many parts who joined ISIS. There is a serious issue of Islamist radicalism that we shouldn't overlook. There are problems in Hindu community too. There are problems in every community. But there is a strand of Islamist radicalism that we cannot overlook, because this has global ramification. There is an international ISIS. There is an international Al-Qaeda. We may have our own Apasi Jagda. We will fight it out. But at the end of the day, we are Indians. At the end of the day, we are people living in our motherland. But when they are connecting to the global Islamist and international Wahhabi movements, it becomes laden with terror. It becomes laden with much serious ramifications, and it will cause further division between our people.
I wonder what Mr. Memon will say to that, because he keeps saying that it only teaches you peace, and yet there are people who go into radical organizations, go into terrorist organizations, go into ISIS. What ideology are they guided by? I do not know. But what does it say, Shehzad Poonawala, that the same people who are talking about this ideology, who are putting out this roadmap for 2047, are simultaneously also planning an attack purportedly on the Prime Minister? Is he the person who is their biggest challenge or their biggest roadblock?
You see, Padmaja, even the Patna blast that took place in 2013, it was a plot of such a nature only. And at that time also, you'd remember how there were certain people who laughed it off. There was an urban Naxal threat, which was Rahul Gandhi called those people voice of dissent. And this is also another plot. But having said that, I believe there is Zubair Memon and there is Majid Hydari both on your panel. Let me ask them only a couple of questions, because they've spoken quite eloquently, at least Zubair Memon has. Zubair Memon, since you said something about freedom of religion and peace, taking that argument forward, I suspect that you would go and say that you accept the Karnataka High Court verdict on hijab and the Supreme Court verdict on triple talaq. And secondly, I want to ask Mr. Majid Hydari that just one question will clarify what Majid Hydari, what thought process he has. Majid Hydari, do you consider APJ Abdul Kalam, the best president of India, to be a role model for Muslims, or do you consider Burhan Wani to be a role model for Muslims?
Majid
Let them both answer this question. One question each.
शहजाद भाई वाह, नया भारत, नया संसद, नया एम्बलम, लंबे लंबे दांत, बढ़िया है. What I need to praise you, बढ़िया है. लंबे लंबे दांत हैं, नया एम्बलम है, नया देश है, नया संसद है. I'll only appreciate you for all what you are doing. Are you happy now? Now can I speak over the issue?
Answer his
question. Do I have the right to speak over the issue? Yes, Padmaja Sahiba. We have no issues with the saffron mission of Hindu Rashtra, but we have every issue with the figment of imagination of a Muslim Rashtra. 8 pages of screenplay from theatre of absurd become Bihar Police.
He can't choose APJ Abdul Kalam over Burhan Wani. He is the dossier of hate. He is the dossier of hate.
I fail to understand, are we here to discuss the witch hunt of the Muslims, or are we here to discuss something like APJ Abdul Kalam or Aurangzeb Mughal Emperor? I fail to understand, why are you on the show then? Now let me get a chance. We don't have even representation in the Jumbo cabinet, our union cabinet. Now let me
shows your mindset that it's not an automatic choice that APJ Abdul Kalam is a role model, not Burhan Wani.
Shehzad Saab, we are helpless. Please give us an opportunity to express our views on Times Now at least. We have nowhere to speak. We don't have representation.
Who is the role model? APJ Abdul Kalam or Burhan Wani?
See, let me get a chance to speak on the topic. We are discussing that we are being pushed to witch hunt. Now let me clarify.
Who is your role model?
And let Shehzad Bhai also listen. Shehzad Saab, please listen. Abdul Hamid Havaldar gave the supreme sacrifice for the country. And in Indian Army, we don't have any Muslim regiment. We don't have a single war cry of the Muslims in our Indian Army. We have been fighting, we have been giving us blood and sweat for the country, but we don't have representation even in the cabinet.
Sir, why are you dragging in the army into all of this? Majid Hydari, please stick to the plot.
Instead of giving us a right, you are trying to witch hunt us.
What has this got to do with a witch hunt? Are you saying arrests are being made as a witch hunt? Are you saying evidence is being planted as a witch hunt? Are you saying that people who've actually been convicted for murder, and as Rahul Ishwar mentioned, it is not just the BJP, but it is the CPM, it is governments of non-BJP states who have also asked for ban on the PFI. Then what witch hunt are we talking about? If you're really talking about a witch hunt, let me actually read to you from the last part, where it says, just a second, if you're talking about a witch hunt, there's a very interesting part of this, which says, it is imperative to collect and keep ready detailed information about the personal details of Hindu RSS leaders and locations of their offices before the stage of the final showdown comes. So here you have people literally being marked out, and the PFI is saying keep a track of all Hindu and RSS leaders because there will be a final showdown. You need to know where their houses are, you need to know where their offices are. Who's being witch hunted?
Now kindly let a helpless man get 30 seconds on the show.
Go on.
The dossier says that they were learning self-defense. Is martial arts self-defense an act of terror? If it is so, then Bruce Lee was the biggest terrorist. Jackie Chan is the living legend of terrorism. I mean, what kind of dossier is this? Why shouldn't every Muslim be well skilled in martial arts? I request every Indian Muslim to learn martial arts. What is wrong in that?
That is great. There's nothing wrong in martial arts, except it also says that a stockpiling of weapons should happen at stage 3 of the entire process. I'm sure you do not think that Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee are sitting there with stockpiles of weapons.
See, that is the bias. My Hindu brothers go for Shastra Puja. My Bajrangi brothers go for weapon puja, and even they go for arms training. There is nothing wrong if that is done by the separate forces, but there's everything wrong if the same is done by the helpless Muslims.
Okay, Shehzad Poonawala, quick rebuttal. Shehzad Poonawala.
You know, Padmaja, I've heard this ad nauseum. He would even call Ajmal Kasab somebody acting in self-defense. But I have only one question to expose Mr. Majid Haidari. Majid Haidari, Afzal Guru, do you consider him to be a terrorist?
Should our Ashoka pillar lions have long teeth, long fangs? Why? Why should it be so? Why? I too have questions. I have questions.
अब इनसे आप सर्टिफिकेट लोगे कौन victimize है?
Our legacy, our heritage, you are destroying everything.
Okay. I think it is fairly safe to say at this point we are not going to get answers to any of those questions. But the idea was just to put out the facts. Now this is what the police says they have in terms of evidence. To prove it in court though is going to be key. There are many charges that are made. How many of them actually stand scrutiny in court will be imperative to show whether this is actual justice, actual conspiracy being called out, or as 3 panelists suggest, a witch hunt. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen.